Yeah, I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Let me tell you about the interesting thing about Dan Burisch is this. I'll tell you this. Wasn't about his stuff that supposedly happened at S4 and stuff like that. A lot of it was about he was into something called the Ganesh particle. And he was in the mountains of Nevada and maintained that he found this Ganesh particle. And you can look this up. It's spelled GNASH. This Ganesh particle, if I remember this correctly, it like glowed in the dark. That's why it's very interesting when I see that guy brings those, the aliencarvings.com guy.
Mm-hmm. Mike?
Okay?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, why is all that glowing in the dark? Okay, well, Dan Burisch saw these crystals like glowing in the dark up in the mountains in Nevada when him and his wife, Marcia McDowell.
In 94, banging our heads on the wall on how to accomplish this. We tried everything from micro dissection of cells. Of course, we're talking about internal versus external cytoplasm. You might want to go into that. Well, I will. But we were trying very crude techniques to arrest the cell's development, and we finally got to the point where we said we needed to know more.
And they weren't really forthcoming.
Well, they weren't forthcoming, but ultimately, in 1993, we were informed. In late 1993, we were informed that, in fact, we were dealing with an extraterrestrial, and that the extraterrestrial was housed inside of the same facility, about a half level down at the end of where we were standing.
Rings, their orientation, the energy running through them, position of the barrel, etc. Because you can raise the barrel up on an armature inside the center of it. All come into play as if you have an onion with the various layers of the onion. As you move through the different energy levels, you also move through the different layers, so you get different bits of information. Now imagine an almost infinite number of layers overlain in comparison to the positions of the rings, and an almost infinite amount of energy that you can add or subtract. Tuning it up, tuning it down.
Well, it sounds
instead of going up by 1 hertz or by 2 hertz, maybe by a thousandth of a hertz up and down. The technology is not being used at all right now.
Okay, but the reason it's not used now is because of where we're going into the galactic, the plane of the...
Yeah. As of about 2017, I would expect probably that all of these little pieces of equipment will probably all get reassembled, yeah.
Turned back on.
Oh, sure.
2017? That's quite a while.
2016, 2017.
Oh, not until then.
Probably not. The so-called cycle of catastrophe or season of catastrophe of Falconelli, the time period from, right around 1992 to right around 2012, right around that area. While we will have passed 2012, we really ought to get through the entire cycle, which is about 1980 to about 2016, to feel confident that the interpretation from the timeline from the future about their own catastrophe is not off by a few years. We're talking about 45,000 years or 52,000 years respectively. We have difficulty understanding what happened 2,000 years ago. And we're talking about 50,000 years here. So it's very wise for them to wait.
The looking glasses are now decommissioned, but also the Stargate technology.
Yeah, they're decommissioned, and the Stargates and the looking glasses, I'm sure they're all in their little mothballed containers and all of that. And they have been separated. The 3 components of each have been separated and moved to different power structures, diplomatic and military authorities on the world.
51. The one jump room, there were several of them. A lot of them were located in colleges. Have you ever heard of the, oh man, what is his name? It's
Andrew Basiago?
Yes. The attorney. He's the main jump room guy. What do you think of him?
Dude, he's one of the him and Osmanagich were supposed to be speaking at this conference, and so I was like, oh my god. So when it was like, hey, do you want to speak there? I was like, absolutely. I was geeking out because I wanted to meet Osmanagich and Basiago because what everything Basiago said, it really, hit. They say when people speak truth, you hear it in the voice. Like it's not even necessarily sometimes
he doesn't
what they're
seem
saying.
like he's lying to me
There's
either.
certain voice, like literally the DNA hears the sound and the sound resonates. Like it literally hit, like you resonate with it on a DNA level. Yeah. And so, and when Basiago spoke and Osmani, like it hit hard. So I was like, I gotta, I want to hear more. But and that's the thing. And I've talked about this before on Bernie's show and stuff, where all these different people, it's getting harder and harder to find it. But these testimonials of these people that are like, look, their parents was part of a project, and they have to. It seems to, though, because I'm seeing this pattern where there's someone in a project, a military project, and in order to access these jump rooms or these portals or these wormholes, they have to hold the hand of a child. And the child,
they're all young when they start out.
And so using it as a key, so Andrew Basiago, him coming out.
Materials. His dark materials, literally, they're using the children to get the dust to open the portals between worlds.
CERN actually had an ad. Okay, stay with me. CERN had an ad a long time. You could pull it up. You could probably find it. It was like a commercial, and it was like almost like a freaking 1990s like cartoon style, like the way that the commercial was, and it is a school bus of children. And like the school bus is like falls. It's really, you're like, what? But I thought about it. Like if you traumatize kids to do a certain thing, if you get to a certain level where say the wormholes are closed, like in Osmanagich's thing, where it's like the stargates are closed, like and things got shut off and a lot of beings were trapped here and closed. They can no longer jump and live freely and manipulate, and do what they used to do recklessly or whatever. And so utilizing traumatizing children is a place and time that opens up a portal to use that trauma to ignite like a place and time to jump to through that emotion. You could probably do it through love as well, but you can't get a kid to fall in love with you. You know what I mean? Like, or just getting anybody to fall in love with you. So like igniting of that being, I don't know if this is coming across right.
Joking around, he knew the guy because obviously he's like must go up there all the time, and they were joking back and forth and stuff like that. He's like, get out of here, And then as he went out, you could hear him go outside. You could hear a lot of noises in the background, and that's when he said he had the phone in his pocket. And he said, "Dude, I'm going to Groom." And I was like, what? And I couldn't believe what he was saying. And then he gets on this helicopter and he's still talking in the phone. But then when that thing starts winding up, it was way too loud. I couldn't hear anything. And then eventually we got cut off.
Wow.
Yeah. Eventually we got cut off.
What was your conclusion of like speaking to him? I know we'll dive way deeper into this, but your assessment of speaking to him, what he had to say, what you revive. I'm talking about picking up on like what you perceive.
Was he being truthful? Is that what you're saying? Yes. And I don't even hesitate to say it because the thing is, I called him that day and he didn't call me. If he's setting up this sound machine and stuff, I mean, he had to be sitting there waiting for me to call. I called him, and thing is, the Ganesh particle thing, I believe that. The J-Rod thing, it's hard for me to believe.
There's some sketchy parts.
There's some all sus. Of it. It's a little sus. It's hard for me to believe all of it, but there's parts of it that are just so interesting. But here's something I want to tell you. There are so many interviews out there with this guy about J-Rod, about the P-45s, the P-52 J-Rod Orions, and these people were from the future, and I say people because that's what they are. They are genetically changed humans, if you will. We apparently
well, that's why I was asking earlier of like, what if this happened to them and they didn't know, like this was done to them and they were under the impression of it being something entirely different? Because I know I was kind of leaning with like, there's these beings, as I'm aware of, there's these beings and they tinker with certain emotions, and they tinker with certain DNAs for the intention of like knowledge and to advance, and I must attain like more power and more knowledge, and but of this being a side effect of something that was done to them. Which
and the thing is, look how strange they look now, which was something that always bothered me. But from what I was told, I'm pretty sure about this. Something had happened that the temperature had changed either where they were at or where they were due to nuclear war, which made the temperature go way up. So their whole physiological bodies changed and stuff to be able to adapt to the amount of heat that was coming through in the radiation, which would make you an ugly looking, possibly gray.
Whoa.
That could explain why the skin's different. That could explain why there's no clothing. That could explain so much. That can also explain why there's no interaction between us and these ETs that come to Earth, because maybe they have so much radiation on them they could kill us instantly.
I highly recommend Nathaniel Gillis, and I love the information that he has to say. And he's talking about times that in the 16th century, the 17th century, these beings appearing to women as their husband, and then they consummate. Wow. They consummate with them, and why? They know what the woman thinks about affects the soul that is brought in and is consummated. So they are obsessed. I get that time and time again. They're obsessed with soul technology, right? And they're looking for host bodies. So,
interesting you say that.
But the difference when you apply that to demons, right? Because then what the women talk about, it appeared as their husband, and then it morphed into a different type of being. And this is 16th century, 17th century. There's these stories of this. So then,
what do they look like, the beings? Do you have any idea? Or
Nathaniel Gillis talks about this, and it kind of sounds like an elongated type gray, but that the woman, it appeared as their husband, and then it morphed afterwards. After it was consummated, it morphed into that type of being. So but the what a lot of things aren't correlated, and that's what I love about Nathaniel Gillis is like the demons, the extraterrestrials, and of correlating that of like what you're taught is demonic or demons, which I always attest to. Remember, hey, before you talk about demons, like remember these demons were once human, right? Sure. They're disembodied spirits, and I think like looking at people walking around, like there's a lot of shitty people out there.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Because I've even found
right now.
Yeah, it's cool, man.
And there's actual evidence of Dan's doctorate and his bachelor's of science degrees both being removed, it said, from
really removed. Why?
New York SUNY. There's a number of reasons why the SUNY doctoral didn't go through, and it doesn't matter. He had the degrees from UNLV that are proven. The State University one, where there's a lot of traveling back and forth. And
he's deployed in Operation Desert Storm as defense biowarfare expert in Black Ops operations.
What?
Yeah, he was over there.
We knew that they were eukaryotic. However, they were unusual in the sense that their cytoplasm and their internal organization, the organelle structures were fused, such as dictyosomes to mitochondria, things like that. And we had no idea what we were looking at. The original contention made by the individuals next to me was that we were looking at some type of biological warfare material.
Yeah, well, if they're testing the solution on a future of something that's going to be used in the future for biological warfare.
They have more experience.
I don't think he's inclined. I don't think he's knowledgeable in everything.
Matter. They are obtaining the gravity repulsion matter from the heavy materials that have been obtained from the J-rods.
the 115 variety material. And apparently when they bombard it with enough electromagnetism, this stuff repels gravity and it turns into some sort of exotic matter. They spin it fast enough, it opens, or they can see through it.
Whoa.
And that is, from what I understand,
Yeah, this is some very crucial information.
I
you're
know. I was
covering
like,
right now.
shoot, can you just rewind that last part? Now I know why I
Dude.
wanted the last chunk of this, like from the middle to the end of this exact video. Oh my God.
We also go verifying Bob Lazar's element 115 in it.
Right?
But the spinning part, that really hits home with.
Yes. No, there was this thing that I came across in an underground base, in the way that it was designed, and I have drawings of it, and the way it was spinning. And I was like, oh man, they've been doing this for eons. They have this down to a science. Like there's certain things that just, it'd be hard to falsify,
Oh, absolutely. All right, let's listen to that part again.
with a clock. A very large, it's a statue that's probably about that tall, and it's held above the doorway. It's wired above the doorway. The looking glass, I find out, is one of the ERBs. It's an Einstein-Rosenbridge promoter. It uses some form of, this is found out, Jesus Christ, within the last 2 weeks. Asking the right questions there, I guess. It's composed of a spherical, spinning, arced, rectangular solid matrix of nickel, cadmium, and barium. There is a spinning disk underneath it, which is supercooled. Into this is injected into the center of these spinning, and I'm not a physicist, spinning disks. Is injected an argon gas. Into that is injected some type of repulsion matter. It's a gravity repulsion matter. They are obtaining the gravity repulsion matter from the heavy materials that have been obtained from the J-rods, the 115 variety material. And apparently when they bombard it with enough electromagnetism, this stuff repels gravity and it turns into some sort of exotic matter. They spin it fast enough, it opens, or they can see through it. And that is, from what I understand, the great prize in what's going on in the world right now, are those devices. Why do you think the British are running around Iraq right now looking for the climatological records that are just happen to be disappeared out of the Baghdad Museum with the rest of the cylinder seals? And you're going to see some cylinder seals today too when I show you some report.
So Dan, does that mean when they're engaging this device in Project Looking Glass?
Yes.
Is this something that they use only for the transmission of information, or can they transport a material object through time?
You know the answer to that. At least you probably heard some rumor. There have been mistakes. There were mistakes. Animals were attempted to transport from one location to another, the production of 2 of the devices, and they put them in resonance or something like that. I'm not a physicist. I don't know. But I was, in fact, present during a human attempt. The human did not survive. The human was not put in there under duress of any sort. It was a volunteer situation, and the human did not survive. The human did not move. The human stayed where the human was put. But the human changed and...
Again, but... you hear certain people, you hear people talk about reptilians or whatever, but from what I've gathered, these insectoid mantis type beings are like above that. Like they're more powerful than, well, at least they're powers and abilities are. So they can